Hey Bookaholics, and welcome back to another reading vlog, specifically the Bookoplathon reading vlog. If you guys saw my TBR, it is quite large and I have other books in mind that I would like to read, so I thought I would start out the month strong, and throughout the 1st of October, which is a Sunday, so it's a day off work, I would get a head start and try and read as many spooky books as I could. So I decided that I would do it in the true fashion of Bookoplathon. Bookoplathon is a readathon that is hosted by Becca over at Becca and the Books, and I will leave a link down in the description in case you want to check it out for yourself. It's a month-long readathon, but at least for now, I'm going to be rolling as I go throughout today, the 1st of October, and hopefully I will get some really good reads out of it. So I am hoping, obviously, to get books that are on my TBR out of the way. So if I can get those on, I will, but if not, I will just go find another book on my shelf that fits the spooky vibes that I would like to read. I am hoping to get to at least 3 books today. I think 3 is doable. I think more than 3 is unmanageable at the moment, but 3 sounds very doable, so I am excited to give it a go. So back to early morning me when I first woke up and still in pajamas. You can go see what my first roll was. Alright, so it's the 1st of October, which is a Sunday. It's just gone 8 a.m. and I have my coffee ready to go, and I am going to roll the Buckley board. I'm going to see how many books I can read today. Hopefully, I'm hoping for 3, but I haven't read 3 books in a day in a while, so we'll have to see. But yeah, I'm going to start our first roll. Alright, I am going to be using a little purple owl. He's very Halloweeny and I love owls. And I'm going to be starting on go, same as everyone else. Alright, let's do this. 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. A book with a purple cover. Alright, let's give this a go. Alright, so the first prompt I got is a book with a purple cover. So I have gone with Sorrowland by River Solomon. This is a kind of bluey purple. It kind of tiptoes the line, but I'm struggling to find first books in series or standalones that have a purple cover. So I've gone with this one, which is somewhere between the two. It's like a purpley blue. I'm going to start with this one. This one, I believe, is horror, and it says, another girl might have heeded the warnings to leave the woods, but Vern preferred the obvious malevolence to the covert violence beyond the trees. Desperate to escape the protective and deeply religious grip of the compound Blessed Acres, where she was raised, Vern retreats to the woods for sanctuary and the beginnings of a new life. When her body undergoes a mesmerizing metamorphosis, she is ready to confront the past and fight for survival as well as her family's future. This is a story of reckoning, a visceral and arresting work of gothic fiction which confronts the tangled history of racism, marginalization, and the black body in the most compelling way. I have heard that this one has kind of almost like witchy vibes because you obviously have someone that is retreating into the forest due to religious oppression. I think that Vern is also a mother. I believe that she has children. I'm really excited to get into this one because River Solomon is an author that I am desperate to read more from. I loved their work, The Deep, and since then I've really wanted to read something else by them, and this is the time. So the author's note at the beginning of this book before the actual story begins is fantastic because it is a discussion around the setting of the book through a decolonized lens. So it is very much the author going into where it is set. It mentions the indigenous peoples whose land it is, but the settlers call it Wyoming, or the colonialists call it Texas. And I think that's a fantastic way of talking about the United States. So Vern is in multiple states, but we also have the author River Solomon discussing that they wrote the book while in England and also pointing out the role that England played in said colonialism and the pain that is inflicted. And then also they have put a content warnings paragraph at the bottom as well. So after a fantastic start, and I've not even started the story. Coffee is consumed and book is half read. It's 10 o'clock. It's been a couple hours, and I am really, really loving this book. It's a wild ride, but it's a really good book. Discussions are so head on if you know what to look for. Like, if you know what the author is trying to put across, then it's such a fantastically direct way of going about it. And I think that Rivers Solomon has a fantastic way of playing with the fantastical to incorporate themes. And I love the way they write. And the additional aspect of motherhood in this book, the story really encapsulates a more difficult side to motherhood. Obviously, in these circumstances, it's always going to be a difficult thing. Motherhood's always going to be something that's basically traumatic, but it's done in such a way that feels very raw and very authentic, and very much like something that a mother who is going through difficult circumstances that aren't literally trying to survive in the woods, but a single mother who has left an abusive ex, or a single mother who is living in poverty, or a single mother who has no one to rely on, would still very much relate to this character. You don't have to be literally trying to survive in the woods against, any monsters or death threats to be able to understand the way that motherhood is depicted in this book. And I love the way that Rivers Solomon does that. They're fantastic at writing books that, although fantastical, you could completely see how someone in very different and yet very similar circumstances will be able to relate to the characters. I also like the way that Rivers Solomon has played with gender, especially the mother's approach, the protagonist Vern, the approach of gendering your children. So I really liked that, as like the way that the author has gone about that. We have conversations around race and racism, as well as misogyny within the society that Vern is fleeing. There were discussions around capitalism and around segregation, etc., that I think is fantastic. Generational trauma. I think that so far there has been so many things touched upon in here, and with a couple of lines have created so much room for discussion. This would make for a fantastic book club read, because there's so much that you could discuss. On every page there is something that invites discussion, and I love that so much. So I can't wait to continue. I'm gonna go do that now, but I thought I'd check in and update you since I'm halfway. So it is midday and I have finished Sorrowland by Rivers Solomon. 5 out of 5 stars. Knew this would be. So many themes, so many interesting characters. I thought this was going to have a smaller cast than it did. It didn't have a huge cast. The setting for it very much made me think this would be a smaller cast than it was. Loved this book. Loved the themes. Can't say much about the latter half. Not really necessarily just because of spoilers, because obviously it's the latter half of the book and there would be spoilers. Also just because there is an aeroplane. There's a little tiny airport right by where I live, and airplanes fly over my house all the time. So you're gonna have to bear with me. But yeah, not just because of spoilers, but because the way this story gives you themes, gives you information, makes you understand things, it's such an intricate weave of, it's a tapestry of a story that is definitely giving you slightly new elements on a very consistent basis. So I think even discussing the themes, though I don't necessarily consider themes spoilers, I think in this one, just slowly weaving your way through it is part of the magic of the story. So I'm not going to talk about the latter half, but absolutely phenomenal book. Loved the characters, loved the setting, loved the themes, loved the representation that I knew this would have. And yeah, I would highly recommend picking up anything by Rivers Solomon. This is a decent place to start. If you want something shorter, then The Deep is a great place to start, but this is, they're all standalones. It's a fantastic place to start with their works. Loved it, loved it, loved it. That does mean that now we're going to move on to our next roll. So let's do this. All right, roll number 2. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we have spooky. All right. Let's do this. So the next prompt we got is spooky. I'm not 100% sure if this one is spooky, but I think it's going to be, and that is The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina by Zoraida Córdoba. And the back of this one says, "The stars have shifted, the earth has turned, the time is here, I am dying. Come and collect your inheritance. The Montoyas are used to a life without explanations, But when their matriarch, Orquídea Divina, invites them to her funeral, they hope to learn the secret that she has held on to so tightly their whole lives. Instead, Orquídea is transformed, leaving them with more questions than answers. 7 years later, her gifts have manifested in different ways for Marimar, Rey, and Rhiannon, granting them unexpected blessings. But soon, a hidden figure begins to tear through their family tree, seeking to destroy Orquídea's line. Determined to save their family and uncover the truth behind their inheritance, they travel to Ecuador, to the place where Orquídea buried her secrets and broken promises and never looked back. Alternating between Orquídea's past and her descendants' present, the inheritance of Orquídea Divina is about what we knowingly and unknowingly inherit from our ancestors, the ties that bind, and reclaiming our power. So again, this one sounds very much like it's going to be a bit like potentially might die. It's, you know, about wiping out a line. It's about secrets and a dark past, etc. So I'm hoping that it gives enough spooky. And I am excited to get into this one. I'm going to go get changed because I'm still in my pajamas. I'm going to go get dressed and then I'll start up and I will update you when I am halfway through this one. Hey gang, so it is now 3 p.m. and I am halfway through The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina, and this story is told in 2 timelines. It is told through Orquídea's past when she's a young woman and her story, and then we are also seeing the perspectives of her descendants as they are dealing with the aftermath of her demise and trying to uncover secrets of her life. I'm really liking the story. I think it's really well done. I really like the setting. We have rural, almost ghost town in America. We have her childhood in Ecuador. So we have some very interesting settings. I think that the book is very atmospheric in that sense. This is also magical realism, and the magical realism aspect in this is due to the fact that the magic is basically standing in for trauma, standing in for social issues, it's standing in for real world implications through a magical lens. Aside from there are a few things that I think are just genuinely arbitrary magic. If you like hard magic systems, then stay a million miles away from this. This is mostly literary. I'm really liking it. The one thing for me is that I think that this book is too short, and I'm only halfway through because there are so many characters in this story and I feel like we're only getting like a surface level. It seems like it occupies like a lot of characters on a surface level instead of a few characters with depth. With a book like this where it does feel quite like a character study, I would like for the characters to have more depth. So far, really enjoying it. Really glad this book exists. I think it would have benefited from being either longer or maybe being a series if you could contrive more plot for it. I don't know, just a way that we could get more depth from these characters. Alrighty ho guys, so I have now finished The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina. It's nearly 6 p.m. I liked this. I think that my feelings actually didn't change throughout the book. What I said halfway through the book persisted. I was very interested in the story. I was interested in what might unfold. The intrigue was very high. I liked finding out more about Orquídea, but I would have liked to have felt more connected to the characters. Aside from that, not much has changed. The setting was really good. The atmosphere was really good. So overall, it was a really good book. I just wanted a bit more engagement with the characters because I just think that there were so many of them, and it's not even like it's one of those where it's like I wish there were less characters. It's just that I wish we had more time with them because there are so many of them, and it's an odd one because there isn't a single character in here that I'd be like, oh, I wish that character got axed, or I really didn't want to read this character's perspective, or well, not perspective, but about this character. But I did want more from these characters. But anyway, now we're going to move on to I imagine final role for this vlog. So let's do that. Alright, so this is where we ended up. I'm going to turn you around so that Ali here is nice and central for you. And let's give this a roll, shall we? And we have 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Mirrored cover. Okay, I don't know if this is slightly cheating for mirrored cover, but I really want to read this. And Becca said that you need to be able to split the book in half and it be pretty much the same cover. With this one, aside from Mercy being here and then Heart being here, the cover mirrors itself, right? Like everything else mirrors itself. So I know the one that she used was like top to bottom, but I don't know, I feel like this works. I'm going to use it anyway. So for mirrored cover, I'm going with The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy because it does mirror itself vertically. This one is about Heart, who is a marshal who spends an awful lot of time dealing with the undead. And then we have Mercy, who is an undertaker who deals with a lot of dead. And they hate each other. They can't stand each other. They are constantly hating having to deal with each other. And then one day, Heart, when he is feeling lonely, he writes an anonymous letter to no one in particular and just leaves it in case someone reads it. Mercy then reads the letter and responds, and so they have this back and forth of conversations they don't know they're having with someone that they feel they hate, and it's a You've Got Mail retelling. So I am excited to get into this one. It's chunkier than any of the other ones that I've read, so I'm hoping I can still get to it. It is 416 pages, so it should still be doable. I have literally until midnight, so I have 6 hours to read this one, which I think is doable. I mean, obviously I need to eat and stuff as well, but I think it's doable. Oh, this is a wildly unflattering angle, but here we are. I am halfway through The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy, and I am having such a good time with this book. Like, I knew it'd be fun. Like, that's why you pick up a romance, right? Like, I knew it would be fun. But I got really invested in the characters really quickly. I really like the ways that the author has played with the original You've Got Mail story. But I think that one of the things that I really appreciated about the characters is the way that it discusses superficiality, the way it discusses what you see on the surface versus what someone's actually going through. You know, the whole like iceberg depiction that people always put in memes. But yeah, so I'm having a really good time with it. There's not a huge amount to say because it's a romance and like you know where it's gonna go. Like there's nothing I can do to spoil this. But there's queer representation in here which I didn't see coming. There's some side characters in here that I'm also really liking, and I'm really enjoying the depth of the characters, because in romance a lot of the time it's just kind of like here's an outline of a character and you can insert your dream opposite sex and insert yourself and there you go. I like the depth of the characters in this as well, and the world building, though not hugely fleshed out because obviously it's nowhere near close to being one of the most important factors of this story, it's still interesting enough and I find it entertaining. So I'm interested in the world, I'm interested in the plot, I'm engaged with the characters, and I'm having a good time, which is exactly what this book is set up to do. Alright guys, it's the next day. I look off his nails, back from work. At midnight last night, I did manage to finish The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy by Megan Banner. I ended up having a really good time with this. I was just so invested. It was one of those where it's like, if this goes past my bedtime, I'm still going to keep reading kind of moments. It was a little bit past midnight, so I didn't quite do it in the 24 hours, but well, I mean, I did in 24 hours because I had until 8 a.m. the following morning, I suppose. But yes, I had a really good time. I loved the character dynamics. I was really invested in the romance. I know a lot of people actually really like when the romance drags out and takes its time. I get so bored. And if you like, the third act breakup in this one wasn't too bad as third act breakups go, and I like those. I can get behind those. They seem more doable and realistic to me. Overall, I had a fantastic time. Would highly recommend if you're looking for a fun seasonal fantasy romance, or romantasy as everyone seems to be calling it. I'm going to do a little wrap up now. So the first book that I read was Sorrowland by Rivers Solomon, and I ended up giving this 5 stars. It was a 5-star prediction and it pulled through. Absolutely had a fantastic time reading this. Loved the themes, loved the character work, loved the setting, love everything that this author puts out. The next one that I had was The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina by Zoraida Córdoba. Definitely an author I'm going to check out more of their adult works for if they get more out. Definitely a decent story that I could really get invested in. Narratively, I just wanted a little bit more depth to the characters, and I ended up giving this one 4 stars. And then the last one was The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy, which I ended up giving 5 stars. Not because it's perfect. It's far from perfect. It has its flaws. It's also just, you know, a carbon copy of You've Got Mail, essentially. But I had a good time. I had such a good time, and it was fun, and it was everything that I wanted it to be. It was exactly what it said on the tin, and it fulfilled everything that I needed it to. And to me, that is also a 5-star read, not because it's like new favorite material, but because I got everything out of it that I wanted to get out of it, and that's what this gave me. Invested in the romance, invested in the characters, loved the character growth, loved the setting and the world building for what was there. Obviously it's peripheral, but what was there. Secondary characters, super easy to root for. Family dynamic that was off the charts. Had such a good time with it. Would highly recommend. And these are the 3 books that Bookopoly ended up dictating that I needed to read. I had a good time. I read 3 books in a day, which I have not done in quite a while. Very, very happy with this. I might do another one of these later on in the month, maybe do a week-long one later on in the month, and a roll as you go kind of set up as well. But for now, I had a good time. I'm having a good time with Bookoplathon. I'm taking a break this week, and I'm going to be reading one of my series instead, since I've got all of my standalones over and done with. Huzzah. For now, that is me. So I hope you enjoyed this vlog. Hope you had a good time. Apologies for how just generally rough I have looked, but it was a Sunday, and I ain't putting makeup on a Sunday unless it's absolutely essential. So sorry about the mug, but I hope you enjoyed the content, and I will catch you in another one soon. Bye.